Hello everyone, my name is Farrell. Today I would like to give you a little bit explanation about trigonometry. So, what is actually trigonometry? Well, for some people it feels like something that is terrifying, but actually it is not. Okay, before we go further to the materials, I would like to give a brief explanation about the history of trigonometry. So the history, trigonometry, it comes from the Greek words trigonon, which means triangle, and metron, it means measure. And in here we have Hipparchus. He is actually the father of trigonometry, and he discovered the table of chords. And then we have Aryabhata, which is the founder also of sine and cosine. And we have Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khawarizm, and he is the founder of the tangent. And the last but not least is Abu al-Wafa Buzjani. He is the founder of second, cosecant, and the cotangent. So, what is trigonometry? So, basically, trigonometry is the branch of mathematics that studies the relation between the side length and the angle of triangle. So, this is the side length and this is the angles in triangle, of course. So in trigonometry, we are talking about the right triangle, of course. So in here we have the name. Uh, Usually we call this the base of a triangle, but in here we call it the adjacent because this side is adjacent with this angle, with this 90 degrees angle. And we have the height. We usually call it the height, right? But in here we call it opposite. Why? Because this line is opposite with this angle, and we have here this is the hypotenuse. So okay, let's now go to the sine. What's sine A? So sine A actually it is the ratio between the opposite and the hypotenuse. So this opposite over the hypotenuse, it's sine A. And then we have the cos A. What's cos A? So actually it's cos alpha. Yeah? Cos alpha is actually the ratio between the adjacent side and the hypotenuse side. And then the last one, we have the tangent alpha. Tangent alpha is the ratio between the opposite side and the adjacent side. So to make us easier to remember about this thing, we have in English we have the some kind of abbreviation for this. We call it the SOHCAHTOA. So the SOH, the SO in here stands for sine equals opposite over hypotenuse, and KH, it stands for cos alpha equals the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And then the last one is TOA. It stands for tangent equals the opposite over the adjacent. Okay, to make it clearer, here are the terms in trigonometry. So you have sine, actually it's supposed to be sine alpha, here sine alpha. So it is the opposite over the hypotenuse. And cosine, it's the adjacent side of the triangle over the hypotenuse. And then you have the tangent in here, tangent alpha. So in tangent, you can say it as the opposite side over the adjacent, or you can make it as the sine over cosine as well. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you want to use this one or the sine over cosine one. And also in here we have the cosecant alpha. What's this? Actually, this is the inverse of the sine alpha. And we have the second one, secant alpha. It is the inverse of the cosine, so it's 1 over cosine. And the last one, we have the cotangent. Cotangent alpha, it is 1 over tangent. Okay, now we are going to talk about the special angles in trigonometry. So as you can see here, I have already written like 9 angles in here, but actually this is not full of the angles. We still have 9 more, but I think it's going to be easier if you pay attention to this one first. So in here we have the coordinates. So this is we call this one as the first quadrant. This is the second, this is the third, and this is the fourth one. So the first quadrant starts from 0 to 90 degrees, and the second one starts from the 90 until 180, and the third one starts from the 180 until 270 degrees, and the last one starts from 270 until 360. Okay, so in the first quadrant, all of the value of the sine, cosine, tangent, and their inverse are positive. So all of them are positive, the value. And for the second quadrant, the positive values are only the sine, this sine, and its inverse. So it's going to be positive. And for the third quadrant, it's going to be tangent only. The tangent will be positive in the third quadrant. And for the last one, for the fourth quadrant, the positive value will only be in cosine. So to make it more easier to remember, the first quadrant, all of the value are positive. The second quadrant, only the sine. The third quadrant is the tangent, and the last one is the cosine. Okay. And also, now we are going to talk about the value. So these are the angles that I wrote before. So I only talk about from the 0 degrees until 180 degrees in here. 0 to 180. So as you can see, this 0 until 90 degrees are the first quadrant. As you can see here, all of the values are positive. And then 90 until 180, only the sine values are positive. Okay? So for the cosine, they are negative, and the tangent also negative. Okay? And also, to make it easier for you to make the values, these values, this is my trick actually. So if we start from sine, it's going to be like 1/2 or half times the square root of 0. And then for the sine 30, one half times the square root of 1. And then 45, a half times the square root of 2. And then we continue until 90 degrees. It is a half times the square root of 4, which is, it's going to be 1. And then this is going to be 0. And then after the 90 degrees, it's going to get down again. It's like a half times the square root of 3, and then it's decreasing until 180 degrees. So it's going to be 0. And then in the third quadrant, the value of sine is going to be minus. So we start from negative half times the square root of 1, and then the next one is half times this negative half times the square root of 2, and so on and so on. And then the same as the sine, we do the same thing as well to the cosine. But if in cosine, we start at the half times the square root of 4. And then we go down decreasing until 0. And then we go up again the square root, but with the negative value in front of it. And then with the tangent, it's kind of easy because you just have to you just have to calculate the sine over cosine in here, so you can get the value of the tangent. Okay, so this is the implementation of the values that we have seen before. So as you can see, this is the right triangle with the 30 degrees in the angle A in here. And if we see the value of the sine 30 degrees, it's going to be half. So what does it mean? So it means that the value, the ratio of the opposite side and the hypotenuse side is going to be 1/2. As you can see in here, the opposite side is 1, and the hypotenuse is 2. And what about the cosine A? The cosine A is cosine 30 degrees. And the value is half times the square root of 3. And it means that uh, the value of the adjacent side is going to be the square root of 3, and the hypotenuse side is 2. And then what about the tangent A? So tangent A is, we can say that it's a sine over cosine, or we can also say it's the ratio between the opposite side and the adjacent side. So it's going to be 1 over 3 times the square root of 3. Okay, now we are going to do the examples of the implementation of trigonometry. So in here, we have BC equals to 4, and the angle A in here equals to 60 degrees. Okay, and to make this easier, we just have to use the trigonometry thing, because if we use the, we can just use the Pythagorean theorem actually, but since we have uh, two values missing, so it's going to be hard. And we can start from the sine 60, it's equals to half times the square root of 3. Okay, so now we can make the comparison in here. So sin A, which is half times the square root of 3, equals to this side over the hypotenuse AC. So later on, if we times both sides with AC, AC over 3, I'm sorry, AC times the square of 3 over 2 is going to be 4. And then AC is going to be 8 over 3 times the square root of 3. So we've got the AC in here. Okay. Next one, we are going to find the AB. We can use the cosine. Cosine 60, it's equals to a half. Okay, then we can do the comparison here. So 1/2 equals to AB over AC. As we know, AC is 1 over 3 times the square root of 3. And now we can just times both sides with 8 over 3 times square root of 3. Like this, equals AB. So we've got AB 4 over 3 times the square root of 3. Oops, okay. Okay, that's all. Okay, that's all the video from me. Hope that it can help you a little bit about the trigonometry. And my name is Farrell, and thank you for watching the video.